वहाँ भी आएगा.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to this Facebook Live. I have Kamran Rizvi with me here, and today we'll be talking about values. The what, why and how of values. And I would now like Mr. Kamran Rizvi to introduce himself, please. For all of you who do not know him or know of him, and yes, over to you.
Well, my name is Kamran Rizvi, as Nida Awan has very kindly mentioned. I started my career back in 1976 with an international bank. Worked there for 14 years, mostly in England, and came to Pakistan in 1991. And by chance got into the learning and development industry, and since then, over the last 26 years, I've been involved and actively engaged in learning and teaching across the country with the corporate sector, non-profits, youth and the education sector. I must say that of all the subjects that I have covered so far, Nida, the subject that you've invited me for is at the heart of everything that matters. So what question do you have?
I was wondering, let's start from the start. How do you define, what are values?
Okay.
What are values in life?
Yeah. In terms of my perspective,
in your perspective,
in my perspective, I think the first and foremost thing is knowing our priorities, what is important, what is useful, what we believe in, and it is at the heart of character building as well. And values we acquire from our family, from our education system, from the society of which we are a part. तो अगर देखा जाए तो वैल्यूज़ को हम अक़दार भी कह सकते हैं, और आप ये जान के हैरान होंगे कि इस मौजू पर एक्सटर्नलाइज बहुत किया गया है. We have often spoken of values that others may have or the organization may have, but very rarely have people delved within themselves to ask as to whether these are my values. देखिए, values क्या है? A set of words which have meanings, which guide our thinking. तो अल्फाज के साथ भी जो सलूक होता है अमूमन मुआशरों में, या तो हम अल्फाज फेंकते हैं, या हम उनको इस्तेमाल करते हैं, या हम उन्हें जीते हैं. वैल्यूज़ का ताल्लुक जीने से है, फेंकने से नहीं, और ना ही लोगों को इम्प्रेस करने से. तो just because I adorn myself with beautiful words does not mean I have become a beautiful person. Clean clothes does not necessarily mean I am clean inside. So I hope you're getting to where I am. So what are values? They are essentially guiding principles that help us make decisions in everyday situations. And if I am not clear on my values, then how do I choose between alternatives that I am constantly faced with?
Oh, right. Interesting. So now that we have a fair bit idea about what are values, why do you think they're important in your personal life and in your professional life? Values for an organization, for example.
And I think this is a deeper and a more profound question, because ultimately, if I'm not motivated to acquire something, how will I? Why are values important? Number one, if you think about it, moving forward in life requires us to make decisions. For instance, when you walked from that end to here, you took some steps. Now those steps were your unconscious decisions.
Right.
Because first came the left foot, then the right. Now you did it automatically because it's part of your unconscious competence. As a result, notice if you had not made those moves, you would never have moved in the first place. So when we travel into the future, the way to get there is to make decisions. So the decisions I make today, now, here, are the decisions which will manifest themselves in the future. How do I make those decisions if I'm not clear on my values? So I have realized that when people are confused about what to do in life. For example, students often are faced with a choice between engineering, IT, and for that matter, a business degree. and they consult me and ask me, "Uncle, what do you advise me to do?" Now that question points to the fact that the individual is not clear in terms of his or her own values. So my major emphasis has been that being clear on your values is the starting point, and then such decisions will become easy for you. So why are values important? Because they help an individual move into the future with confidence and clarity, dealing with tough decisions as well as simple ones.
Okay.
Likewise in organizations.
Yeah.
And let me tell you,
all organizations seem to have values, but are they really at the core of what they do?
look, and that's a very good question, because we work with organizations, corporate sector as well as non-profits, and we find that it is a good idea not only for the organization to have a set of values, but those individuals working in the system to also believe in them in the same manner and live them in their day-to-day conduct, so that there is an alignment, a consistency, and a certain identity that the organization acquires, and it then attains its brand recognition. And you would have noticed that for organizations, a brand value is of the essence. And a lot of organizations today, for example, are associated with quality, reliability. I mean, for example, if you talk about a Mercedes-Benz, the first thought that comes to mind is engineering excellence.
And a beautiful car.
And a beautiful car. But that engineering excellence comes out of a lot of simple things that are done right at every level in the system.
Agreed.
Likewise, I mean, if you think of a Toyota, the first thought that comes to mind is reliability. And the fact that people, and resale. Now these are brand values, which again in an organization, if it is clear to the organization what its strategic priorities are, they'll be able to hire people on that basis, they'll fire people on that basis, they will make all strategic choices on that basis. So can you imagine an indecisive organization? Can you imagine an indecisive individual? Or having schizophrenia? So that is why values help you to define not only your identity, but also gives consistency to your effort and gets everyone rowing in the same direction. So for me, values are sacrosanct, the very essence, the pinnacle of an individual's success over the long term and the short term.
And an organization's success.
Oh yes.
So you very rightly said that all decisions that we take should be value-based.
Yes.
Some decisions are unconscious and some are conscious. So what is then value-based leadership? Because taking decisions in your life is a form of you're the leader of your life, right?
Yes.
You're in a form of you're taking decisions in your life, so you're kind of a leader in your life. So what is value-based leadership? They have to be connected. Do you think, is that the way how they are?
Value-based leadership comes through very clearly with a quote which I remember, which is,
I should note that down.
if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything.
Okay.
And value-based leadership is knowing what you stand for. And there's another very important thought behind value-based leadership, which is that if you do not have a reason for which you will die, I'll repeat, if you do not have a reason for which you will be willing to die, you do not have a reason to live.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So if you keep these in mind, you will then realize how important it is in life for value-based leaders in particular to draw a line that they shall never cross. In the corporate sector, it's often called the red line.
Okay.
And those red lines need to be defined, need to be known, and a leader normally, a value-based leader in an organization, often declares his intent and his principles and his guiding values to others and is open to feedback and criticism should he or she not live up to them.
Okay.
That's value-based leadership. However, if you look at it, leadership is not just at the top. Every individual in life is leading his or her life. So we don't want to associate leadership with the top team in an organization. We want to associate leadership at every level in society, in organizations. It could be social, political, cultural, all kinds of leadership, within family also.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, so when you become an adult, and you're a young girl today, but I know from my experience of you that you initiate things, you take decisions, you're empowered, and that is exhibiting leadership in your sphere of influence.
Right, so now we have a fair bit idea of what is value, what is a value, what are values, how are they defined, why are they important in life, in your personal life, in your organizational life and experience, and for an organization. How do you really live them in a day-to-day setting?
Good.
Personally and professionally.
So to recap, and before we go further, what are values? They are our priorities, our guiding principles, and things we hold sacrosanct and consider important in our life. And those values, in fact, I made a list of the types of values. I mean, I was horrified. I mean, there's so much data out there today in Google that when I looked up the types, there is the theoretical, there's the economic, the aesthetic, the social, the political, the religious. I mean, there are different types of values. Then there are instrumental values. And then there are terminal values. And there are work values like achievement, concern for others, honesty. And I would request our viewers to visit Google and literally search for values at work or why are values important, and they will be inundated with information of value. So we've concluded that values are what we consider important in life, and if we have no idea of that, then we're going to float, we're going to drift, and we're going to go nowhere. The why is simply the basis on which we remain clear, consistent, and move forward with confidence by making decisions. That's why it's important. So that we can make choices in very odd situations. The complexity arises not in the situation, it's in our own minds. And complexity to me is when we are not clear in our own mind as to what our priorities are, how do we deal with that situation? So being clear must be very important, and indeed values are in crisis at times. Because social norms dictate one thing, and my own personal values may dictate something else. Timekeeping is an example. For me, time is a great value. And where does that come from? It comes from respect. If I don't respect my time and your time and the time of my viewers, then I'm sorry, it means I don't respect them.
Yes.
And thank you for starting at 3:15. Otherwise, we would be compromised.
Absolutely.
So values in crisis is a concept which has to be understood, because in Pakistan I feel there is a lot of that. We say one thing and we do another. And these contradictions, when people confront, they are left feeling extremely miserable. We lose credibility, we lose integrity, and in a sense cynicism starts to take root. Then of course there are universal values as well. Values which all over the world everyone subscribes to, whether he or she believes in God or not. And there are some examples when I look them up: honesty, responsibility, solidarity, cooperation, tolerance, respect,
so, for example,
aspects like that. Yes.
If I were to have a value called honesty,
Yes.
how would I live it day to day?
Yes. And
are there any behaviors associated with values in an organization or in your personal life, so that you're really living the value?
Now these are tough questions. These are tough questions. The what and the why, I feel most people not only understand but subscribe to. The problem starts with the how. And the how is a question on which I would like us to even conclude this live session, because there are lots of dimensions to it.
Yes.
I'm sure you're familiar with the word fear.
Of course. Yes.
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 And when we are afraid, in our heart we know what is happening is not right. But somewhere in our hearts we also find lack of courage to be able to express when the occasion demands. And we remain silent and we comply. I have a feeling that there are lots of people out there in organizations who don't agree with their boss, but just to protect their jobs, they are complying, but they're not committed. And frankly, that is what we have to address, which is building the confidence within ourselves and the courage to be able to live what we truly believe in. And this comes to a very, very important point, which is that at the time of hiring, organizations need to know what values does the individual, the candidate, have. Now, there are those that he will say or she will say, those are espoused values, and the ones that are actually lived. Because don't forget, I mean, a culture is neither good or bad. But whatever you witness in a culture is nothing but a depiction of the actual practical values. So we may not say that money is important to us, but if that is the basis on which I make career choices, then it is, but I'm not accepting it. If I say that selfishness is not a value, but if my entire life is driven around accumulation, then I'm lying. And if I say that, oh no, I like to empower people, but if anyone wants to do something, they must first get my consent, then again, I'm saying one thing, doing another. So that is where we have to encourage honesty in the system and also be honest with ourselves. So here comes the question, how do we live our values? We'll have to first decide what culture are we part of.
Because we'll always, sorry to cut you, but we'll always face opposing forces and challenges when we're living by our values, right?
Absolutely, you may have to resign tomorrow. I mean, it's as blatant as that. But do we really, do our personal circumstances allow us to do that? So therefore, I would advise wisdom over rashness. Wisdom over rashness, because any improvement doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And here what I would suggest is that there's a saying in our faith as well, in the Muslim faith, that if you have the courage, stand up and fight for it. If you have less courage, at least speak out. If you have even lesser courage than that, then consider what is wrong to be wrong in your heart. You may not express it. So God is very kind in His dispensation, that He allows us to
different levels
at different levels.
But
if God forbid our conscience, हमारा ज़मीर अगर सो जाए, तो फिर तो मारे गए. और अगर आप सच पूछो, तो values की ज़बान ज़मीर बोलता है. Have you heard of Sensodyne? Why do we apply Sensodyne on our teeth? Or for that matter, Colgate का भी आजकल चल रहा है.
To take care of our teeth and so that they shine bright.
And what about the गरम ठंडा लगने वाली बात?
Well, so we don't have any sensitivities, any cavities for that matter.
Sensitivity is what it is aiming at. कि जब आप वो लगाते हैं ना, तो आपके दांत सुन हो जाते हैं. मतलब कि आप गरम ठंडा खा सकते हैं मजे के साथ, and it doesn't hurt you. ये टूथपेस्ट जो है कभी ज़मीर पे ना लगाए.
Okay, that's a good analogy. We also have
गरम ठंडा लगना चाहिए, और अगर ये ज़मीर सो गया है तो ये पूरी गुफ्तगू ज़ीरो हो जाएगी. It will go to zero.
Thank you so much for elaborating on the what.
And I'll come to the how. I'll come to the
yes, just while you conclude, I just want to tell the viewers that we will also be answering the questions. People are commenting and they want to know certain things. Just when he's concluded on the how, we'll get to the questions. Yes, please.
So, first of all, the how. How का पहला जो है contradiction. This world is full of contradictions. We need to accept them and understand the word contradiction, that there are two opposing forces that are true in themselves but negate each other. It's not a conflict, it's a contradiction. An example is heavier than air can fly. Is that true? Think of an aircraft. It flies 700 tons. Lighter than air can fly. Both are true. But do they negate each other? That's a contradiction. And if you ask me, in our psychological world, social world, as well as the scientific world, contradictions are abundant. And intelligence is making sense of those. So when we talk about values, and we want to work them, live them, apply them in our lives, we will forever be faced with contradictions.
Right.
Now, if we are unable to make sense of those contradictions, we are admitting to the fact that we are not intelligent, i.e. we are not using our mind. In fact, one thing I remember, I met a manager and he, in his conversation, said to me, you know, my boss is very unreasonable. Every time I go to him, he uses 3 words repeatedly. I said, what are those 3 words? So he says all the time, use your brains. So I said, what's wrong with that? He's inviting you to apply what God has given you as a gift.
Yeah.
So what's your problem with that? And I then had a conversation.
Yeah.
And I said, thinking is your responsibility. Right? So that's the first tool. How do we apply values? Making sense of contradictions. Because there are lots of them in our sphere of life and work. Then the second is to match, there's a formulation that we talk about, H plus R, which is honesty with respect.
Okay.
Now, if we notice, a lot of people pride themselves in being honest. And in the process, they become extremely crude and unhelpful and destructive. And they say things like, I said this to him on his face, I couldn't care what he feels and what others think of him. Now that kind of talk is being honest, i.e. putting across what you believe in your heart. But where is the respect?
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, you'll see R, which is respect. A lot of people have a value of respect, and I've seen this in government departments as well as some corporate cultures. You meet them, they'll meet you very nicely. It's like you just came and I'll say, "Acha, आइए तशरीफ रखिए, आप बड़ी दूर से आई हैं, थक गई होंगी, मैं आपके लिए चाय लाऊं?" Right? And then I'll go and I'll tell the manager there, "Oh यार ये मुसीबत फिर आ गई है, इसको निपटा." Now I'm being respectful, but where is the honesty there?
Yeah.
So the challenge, and I would like our audience to take this, how to live values is to be honest and respectful at the same time. And let me tell you, it is the most difficult thing you will do. And on this, I would say that anything worth doing is difficult. I repeat, anything worth doing is difficult. And H plus R is what we want. We don't want H minus R, and we don't want R minus H. Because we are out there to make people feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
We are out there to learn how to relate to others without causing offense,
Yes.
even if we wish to disagree.
Yes. Because a lot of times people, in the name of being straightforward or blunt, ignore the respect part.
Yes.
Because they're focusing so much on we're being honest or we're being straightforward and we have to, give a feedback to this person or something. And they, at times, because of the tone that they might say something in the name of being blunt, they may hurt people's feelings. And you're very right that we cannot let go of respect at any cost.
At no cost at all. And I think this is one challenge that our society and the world faces right now.
Yeah.
The best part is when I interact with colleagues, participants, I say to them, there is some good news for you. And they say, what is that? I say, well, look, from today, you don't have to like your boss. Yeah, you don't have to like your boss. But you must respect him or her. And the liking part is the popularity part.
Yeah.
And that's where we are caught up. We want to put away popularity and uphold respect. If we do that, then only can we begin to live our values. And in this context, the tool, the technique that I would urge everyone to learn is assertiveness. It's one word. It's one word. And assertiveness to me is a mindset which says, hey, listen, I have rights as an individual. I have rights. I have a right to my opinion. I have freedom of expression. I have right to my fears, my mistakes. I have a right to my beliefs. These are my rights, okay?
Yeah.
But then I have to not only protect my own rights, but to respect the rights of others in equal measure.
Right.
Otherwise, we'll trample on others or get trampled by others.
Yeah, I mean, respect doesn't mean that you have to be, say, in an abusive relationship, be it anywhere, or you have to be in a relationship or in a position where you feel your respect is being compromised or anything, your values are being compromised. I mean, assertiveness along with respect, just like honesty along with respect. So the key really is in the balance of all. In the
balance and in the words we use, the narrative that we entertain in our minds. For example, when we listen to someone and find that his perspective is something I don't like, we give it a label of wrong.
Yeah, yes.
And when we go into the wrong and right debate, then we are judging. And when we start judging, that is when prejudice starts to occur.
Yes.
Yes. Instead, if different is not wrong, then it is what?
Different.
Different is different. Yeah. And if we are able to switch from the right-wrong tyranny into a different is different, then we can move our separate ways, but without being disrespectful. It's not about I won, you lost.
Yeah.
It's about, okay, you chose a path, I chose a path. Now this could happen in negotiations, this could happen in personal family relationships, it can happen at work. And at times, tolerance and patience is also forgotten.
Yeah. So for one to be right, the other doesn't have to be wrong.
Exactly, they're different.
Yeah.
And if we can learn that, then also we can live our values.
Right.
So the first thing that we discovered was...
tolerance is really at the base of this.
Tolerance is at the base, assertiveness is at the base, combining honesty with respect is at the base.
You might want to note these down, guys, because let me tell you, it's very difficult to get hold of this guy here and to get these bits of wisdom. I mean, always a pleasure for me, but I'm the lucky one here. I get to sit next to him and take all of this, wisdom from him.
And I learned from her as well. She's she's just being too kind with her words. I must say
Same goes for you.
we want to acquire honesty with respect principle. We want to acquire assertiveness, develop that. And now the question of patience and tolerance.
Oh, very important, even from any point of view. Philosophical, religious, patience is really at the core of...
Because you know why I say this? It's because every human being on this planet is worthy of respect. Every human being on this planet, the 7 billion who live on this planet...
Any living thing for that matter.
Nature, environment. See what's happening in Houston, Texas. See what's happening in India right now.
Yes.
Climate change. This is nature reacting to our abuse of nature. So we have to be respectful of the environment, we have to be respectful of all living things. I'm very glad you pointed us to that. And of course human beings. And have you noticed how we treat insects, how we treat animals at times? It is disgraceful.
So do you...
Where are the values there?
Yeah, I mean, do you then really see that there's a... Believing in something and then acting upon it are two different things, right? So do you really, in your opinion, would you shed some light on whether they go hand in hand, where you believe in something and unless you act upon it, really the loop is not closed?
Exactly. This reminds us of a tool that we often use, which is KUBA, Cuba.
Okay.
KUBA. So we have H plus R, we have assertiveness, we have KUBA now. KUBA really suggests that whatever we are doing, we must know what it is. So in order to live our life, we need to know things. So now we know that values are our priorities and what we give importance to. Now we know why they're important, because they help us make decisions in complex situations and help us move forward. And the how part is, after knowing, we need to understand them. We'll never understand them unless we experience them and feel them. And then after understanding, do we have a choice as to whether we believe in it or not? So even at this moment, if people have understood what I have shared, and they may not have experienced, but intellectually at least, then their choice is also to whether to believe or not. But before you reject an idea, test it. And once you believe in something, it doesn't necessarily mean you will do it. That's the unfortunate part. In fact, someone very rightly said that in Pakistan, a majority of people believe in God, but they don't listen to Him.
Yeah.
And I want to repeat this. Majority of people living in Pakistan believe in God, but they don't listen to Him.
Even in the whole world, right, maybe. But we can speak for ourselves.
We can speak for ourselves. I think the world can fix itself. We better fix ourselves.
Yeah.
And I can only begin...
Always starts with the self. Right?
Yeah. So everything I'm saying with great trepidation and lots of humility, because I am held to these points.
Yeah.
And all trainers are answerable for what they teach.
Yeah.
And I feel that if we are to be sincere in our relationships, then we should only pass on that information that we ourselves believe in and benefit from and live by. It's a very difficult thing to do, and none of us is perfect, by the way, and I think this is a point at which we should also encourage people to celebrate their imperfection. And this is something
absolutely.
I learned from Brené Brown, if you remember.
Yes, the talk on vulnerability.
Yeah, Power of Vulnerability.
Power of Vulnerability,
By
absolutely.
Brené Brown. I would urge everyone to go to TED Talks or even YouTube. Brené Brown, Power of Vulnerability, amazing talk.
Yeah.
Our listeners will definitely gain from that.
Okay, great. I think we can keep talking about this topic because this is so close to my heart, your heart, I'm sure everyone who's listening, because values is something that's really at the core of any philosophy, what the religion says, what we live and what we experience day to day. And all the professionals out there also have to abide by certain behaviors because their organization has values. So values really this is a topic which we can really sit and talk about it for hours. But we are short on time now, and I think a lot of people out there have questions for you. If you could just shed light on some of them.
Yes, please.
One of the questions is, what is the difference between morals and values? In your perspective.
There is no difference between morals and values. Values are derived from our sense of morality.
Okay. Yeah.
What is the other question?
So values are derived from our sense of morality, right?
Yes. Which comes from our faith, whether in God or in humanistic principles, that I leave to every individual to decide. The sense of right and wrong.
Yeah, your internal check will
Yes, your conscience will guide you on what is morality.
Another question is, how do values influence your career selection? Or should they influence you?
Definitely, because your values will guide you to your choices. Okay. And indeed, if you think about it, the world is full of problems and every organization is out there solving some problem. Yeah. Pharmaceutical companies are providing medicine so that the doctors may prescribe and so that the patients become healthy. People want to travel, so Boeing and Airbus are producing aircraft so that they can move from point A to B at an early speed. So every organization is addressing some problem. Your values will first of all help you select the problem you wish to solve. Okay. And then identify an organization that's working on that problem. Yeah. That's how you find meaning and purpose. Otherwise you're useless.
So it really is about first finding what you want to do in life.
Yes.
And then finding what anyone else is doing on that same, cause or platform, and then
you select the players.
Then we select whatever field it may be, corporate, public, or development.
Exactly.
For that matter.
So first find out what are the problems on this planet. Which problem do you want to be a part of in terms of solving it? Right. Then discovering who is doing what in that area. Yeah. And if you find no one, then you start your own. But the point is that you can only do that if you have your own values. It's just like I ask, a lot of people are working in one company and applying to different other organizations. They float their CVs everywhere. Yeah. And they give a sense to their employer that everything is fine. And one day they get an acceptance and they jump ship and surprise everyone. Yeah. Now that conduct, of course, is certainly not credible, or integrity is missing in that. Yeah. So in this, what we often find is, and I gave this example because it is a very rampant issue in organizations where staff turnover occurs. It's very easy to blame those who are doing this. It's just because people need to earn, number one, and they find that where they are sucks. Yeah. So in the first place, if they had their values clear, they wouldn't be in that organization. And the second part is they lack courage, therefore they do not share the fact that, hey, I'm in the wrong place and I'm looking elsewhere, please help me do that.
Maybe we need to look at it in a reverse manner, where we first need to say find our passion, but I know it's a very in thing, finding your passion and living your passion, and everyone keeps talking about these days, but a lot of people find problem in knowing what your passion is.
Yes.
You know,
and it can take time.
And you may have multiple inner callings, right? You
Yes.
may want to serve socially, and you may want to also earn a lot of money, and you may want to have a really good-looking job in a car or whatever,
Yes.
right? You may have multiple callings,
Yes.
and there's nothing wrong in that. So one way to find your passion is to see what drives you and then connect it with the problems that it can solve in the world also, and then connect it to all the organizations or people out there who share the same perspective.
Yes.
And then maybe you can, you know, select either a career for yourself
Or become an entrepreneur.
Or become an entrepreneur.
Or
Yes.
do both. I mean, to give you an example, in my case, I was in banking for 14 years, but if you ask me, my inner calling was asking for something else.
Yeah.
I remained in that job, I was true to that job, and when I found my inner calling, I resigned after 14 years. So my request is that if you don't have a clear direction in your mind, you have clear values, they will help you find that direction at some point. At some
You're
point.
just moving away from the camera.
Yes,
The audience loves to see.
I wanted to write.
All right, so another question here, and I think we'll close after that if we don't have another question, is it's a question and a comment and an opinion. What is the difference between holding your values or holding your ego? People cover their egos in the name of values. So what to do at that time, and how to deal with a person in such a situation? So just to recap the question, difference between holding your values or holding your ego, because sometimes people cover their egos in the name of values. So what to do with that person or in the situation?
Well, my sense of it is as follows, that you are not defined by what you have, the position you occupy, your designation, your qualification. You're defined by who you are. Ego has a different manifestation. Ego comes into play when there is something lacking in my own self, self-esteem. Insecurity is the biggest driver of ego. So those who surround themselves in trappings in terms of bodyguards and escorts and mansions, not because they enjoy them, but because they want to show to the world how powerful they are, they're deeply insecure on the inside. So when you're on values and principle, you have nothing to prove, because you are the best creation of God anyway, and you're doing what you believe in. So greatness doesn't come from things or positions or titles. Greatness comes from being on principle, being a man or woman of character, and being of value and making a difference, positive difference in people's lives. Once we make that distinction, then I tell you, Sattaridi is such a great example. What car was he in? What kind of dress did he wear? What kind of house did he live in what simplicity did he spend his entire life? Even though his institution is spread across the country and is known to be amongst the best organized ambulance service, shelter for battered women, drug rehabs. So much good has come from an individual who was so simple and so down to earth, and a man who lived by his values. So what are we trying to do? Earn du'as or cash? If we are wanting to earn du'as, then we have to be a man of character. If we want to earn a lot of cash and du'as, that's brilliant.
That's the best
But if I had to choose between du'as and cash, I'd much rather have du'as and live on a dal roti as opposed to have lots of cash and astaghfirullah, people cursing me left, right and center.
So maybe another side to this would be that, see, behaviors are linked to values, right? So, or they could be linked to your ego. So anyone who's living their ego in the name of values,
well, then
their behaviors will show the difference if they were to live their values as opposed to, right?
If they were to live their values, their behavior would be in consonance.
Yeah.
People can see through it.
Yeah.
Lady Diana, Her Majesty the Queen.
Yeah.
If you recall, these two personalities, very, very different.
Yes.
Lady Diana, in the royal family of Great Britain, through her conduct and behavior, put everything into question.
Right.
Pomp and ceremony on the one end and human connection on the
Right.
other. That was the difference. And I think we can all learn from the fact that values are the basis of character. Values give us a basis for making decisions. Values give us identity. Values make us attractive. And it is through that that we are able to draw positive things into our lives and lead a life of respect, not just here, but in the hereafter as well. So, my friends, if there is one word, please embrace it, values, and find ways to live them.
Yeah, okay.
Because by being clear on your values, you will sleep well at night. That is the best gift that you can ever get.
So to answer the last few questions, I think Kamran has already talked about what Mohammed Faizan's question is, how to stick ourselves to our values. I think you just shed light on that. Then there's another question about not sure how values determine your career choice. He also talked about earlier, just 2 minutes ago, about how your values can really help you find your calling and then find the right career choice or become an entrepreneur.
And also just work out that your personal values are clear, organizational values are clear. Do you see an alignment? If you do,
yes,
go for it.
Yes, right. I think we have answered the concerns. Let me just see if there is something else. How to deal with difficult colleagues at work, how to deal with difficult people. This is a little off topic, but would you like to have, share your perspective on how to deal with difficult colleagues at work, or difficult people for that matter?
Well, firstly, there are different types of difficulties that we come across. Some people appear difficult because they say what is good for us and we don't want to hear it.
Okay.
Some people are difficult because they have a very rigid mindset and are not willing to budge. So it's not an answer that one can a question that one can deal with so easily, but you will find in Google a lot of strategies for different types of difficulties that you may face at home, at work, and in your social life. And there is lots of material available, and I'm sure that you can benefit from that.
Thank you. I think that also answers how to tolerate people in different institutions.
Be respectful of all human beings, and remember, different is equal to different.
Great.
Different is not wrong. It's just different. It's not your way, it's another way. So that's okay. But at least understand that and respect it. Right?
And before having a prejudice, maybe ask and try and understand.
Yeah. So we need to learn how to suspend judgment.
Yeah.
All of us carry our own biases. I mean, if you think about it, positive mental attitude is a bias, which we have consciously acquired. I could equally be negative. That's also a bias.
But you trained your mind to be positive and to see that.
So when you become positive, it simply means you start looking at the world with a very constructive lens as opposed to a destructive one. So life which is driven by hope, hope is what leads to dreams, dreams leads to vision, vision leads to goals, goals lead to objectives, tasks and activities. If you're hopeless to start with, there is no future. And that only leads to depression and ultimately suicide. Why do that? Why not choose life over death? And remember, you can't discuss life minus death, because you may die tomorrow or any minute. I may die tomorrow or any minute. So make each moment, each day count. Death is the best teacher of life. And values, again, the quote I started with, I would like to conclude with.
Yes, please.
If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. So work out, what is it that you stand for? Hey, lota nahi banna hai. Lota वो शख्स है जिसकी वैल्यूज क्लियर नहीं होती, वो कभी इधर कभी उधर कभी उधर. तो गमला जो है उसको आप जहां भी रख दें वो वहां चला जाएगा. हमें दरख्त बनना है और जड़ें गाड़नी है. हमें अपना किरदार बनाना है और एक कारामत फर्द बनना है इस माशरे में. This is my request to myself and to all of us. And mashallah, you're already on that.
Yeah, okay. So, merely to be able to add value, we need to have values.
Yes. And those
so the external and the internal connection is interlinked.
Is interlinked. And yes, everyone won't be happy with you, and you're not there to please everyone.
Yes.
Please make that a basis of your thinking. You're not there to please everyone. In fact, always make sure that you are respectful of everyone, but you're not there to be popular.
Okay, one last thing. Any specific book to get more insights? There's a...
Oh yes,
if you would like to.
I would like you to go to my books first. They're easy to read. Yeah, and
yes.
you can
I
find
recommend,
them.
I vouch for that.
You can find them on kzr.co. That's my personal website. And you'll find on the home page 6 books, and all of them will guide you one way or the other towards values. Please, and they're free, by the way, so this is not a sales pitch.
And also HBR articles, you also keep sharing a lot of value-based articles.
And when you email me, you'll find my email contact there as well. I will certainly refer you to tons of good books and publications. That's not an issue. So you must be in touch, strive for it, and then you shall find.
Alright, great. And the rest of the comments are full of wishes and good lucks, and everyone's appreciating you being here. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. We'll have to beg your leave now. And it was wonderful talking to you once again.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure having such conversations with you. And this time, sharing it with the people who are watching. I think I had a great time. Thank you for refreshing my faith and my belief in the importance of values, and also for giving us some models that we could use in our life, in our personal and professional life, and I'm sure a lot of people...
A message, a concluding message?
Yes, of course, please.
I came across this, which is beautiful. Your life is a message. Make sure it's inspirational. Your life is a message.
Yeah.
Make sure it is inspirational.
It's inspirational.
Yeah. When people come across you, they should feel good about themselves. Make that your rule, and that's about it. Respect is what will make it happen. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.